I was relegated. I will stick my nose. Oh my God.
Okay, class, listen up. I need your attention. Thank you. Okay, so I have a story to tell you today, and it starts with a question. True or false? There's no such thing as a stupid question.
False.
Okay, the correct answer is false.
I was right.
Okay, well, back when I was Fiona, I might have made a case for the other side, but since becoming Miss Worcester, I know for sure that there are such things as stupid questions. I'm going to tell you guys a story today, and you guys are relatively lucky. You guys have a lot of common sense, but this class did not have any common sense, and as you can see, disaster can follow. A friend of mine, Miss Rooster, was the teacher of this class. Though most of her class was made up of conscientious students such as yourselves, Miss Rooster had 4 more difficult students, each with their own unique, stupid question-asking problems. 4 students, it turns out, was all that it took. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Her first student, Broseph, had the annoying habit of asking questions that he could have easily found the answer to on his own. Chances were, if it was important, Mrs. Rooster had already answered his question. "What time is it?" Broseph would ask, ignoring the cell phone he'd just been tampering with nonstop. "What's today's date? Are we turning this in? What room are we in?" "There's a clock on the wall," Miss Rooster would say. "The date's on the board. Yes, we always turn in our warm-ups. We're in room 453. Somehow, however, no matter how many times Miss Rooster answered the questions, Broseph just kept generating more, like some sick game of whack-a-mole. Miss Rooster is good at whack-a-mole, but not that good. Another one of her students, Smelcy, was somehow even more obnoxious. She had the habit of asking questions Miss Rooster was about to answer. "What are we doing today?" Smelcy would ask before finding her seat each morning. "Are you going to turn on the lights?" she would ask as Miss Rooster grappled with the DVD player. "What do I do with this?" she would ask as Miss Rooster set a fresh, instruction-laden worksheet on her desk. Miss Rooster would try ignoring her, but Smelcy would repeat the question until she got an answer, sometimes even following Miss Rooster around. Miss Rooster found herself dreaming of her whack-a-mole mallet. "If only it were so simple," she sighed. Somehow, the third student was more annoying still. Blob, short for Robert, would ask questions that Miss Rooster had just answered. One typical day, Miss Rooster said, "Today, class, we are going to break into 6 groups of 5 people. Listen carefully, because I only want to tell you this once. Your groups and names are written on the board. Each person will be responsible for one of the 5 roles on the worksheet I just handed out. Now I want you to get into your groups and decide your roles amongst yourselves. Any questions?" Immediately, Blob's hand shot into the air. "Yes, Blob?" "What are we doing right now?" Every time this happened, the poor patient Miss Rooster would re-explain the agenda, but she would always have the same problem again the next day. It was like whack-a-mole all over again, but with both hands tied behind her back. You may be getting sick of the whack-a-mole analogy, but there really is no better simile I can come up with without resorting to classical allusions. And I promise, it's pertinent. I know you won't believe this, but her 4th student was the absolute worst. It seems impossible, but wait until you hear this. Julia would ask questions that she already knew the answers to. "Are we watching a movie today?" she would ask every day as she entered the room. "No, why would we be watching a movie?" "Because I like movies," Julia would pronounce. "Why do we have to do this?" she would ask about every assignment. "Because it's the assignment and you'll learn from it," Mrs. Rooster would say. "Could I just not do this?" Julia would parry. "Yes, I suppose you could if you wanted a 0, the exhaustive Mrs. Rooster would reply. Even if it were a game of whack-a-mole, Miss Rooster's mallet was too small and her arm too slow to defeat this critter. One day, Miss Rooster was sitting at her desk. Exhausted from answering all of the stupid questions Broseph, Smelcy, Blob, and Julie had asked her that day, Miss Rooster was busily counting down the days to summer vacation when a small voice jolted her back to reality. What? What? She asked, looking wildly around, a little panicked at being caught off guard. Schmeiler had approached her desk. Schmeiler, though very quiet, was one of Miss Rooster's best students. He was small for his age and often got nosebleeds. In fact, he had one right at that very moment. He had approached her desk to try and address the problem. However, unbeknownst to him, Miss Rooster had already been asked 9,999 questions that class period. And, unfortunately for Schmeiler, that was her limit. He repeated his question. My nose is bleeding. Can I go to the bathroom? And then something happened that shocked the whole class. Miss Rooster, their typically patient and sympathetic young teacher, suddenly snapped. No, she shrieked. No, 1,000 times no. You can bleed to death for all I care. As her startled students looked on, she fell to the floor, clutching her ears, her legs kicking. Soon, Miss Rooster was carted away, her arms waving wildly, almost as if she were clutching a mallet. There are too many of them! So many moles, she shrieked. The men in white lab coats shook their heads as they zipped her into her straitjacket. That's the third one this week. By the next day, the kids had a new teacher. This teacher had them copy the book, word for word, every day, rain or shine. There was no laughing or talking allowed in his class. Schmeiler actually had to switch periods because he kept getting detention for smiling too much. The students missed Miss Rooster and were dearly sorry for asking all those stupid questions. What can we learn from this story, you might ask? Well, there's a limit to how many questions, both stupid and reasonable, that teachers can handle, and the limit is different for each teacher. You never know when a teacher will snap, so do yourself and your classmates a favor and answer your stupid questions yourself. For once your teachers are all out of reasons, they may lose their power of reason altogether. Do you guys understand?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I got it.
Hey, Miss Worcester, what are we doing now?
Are we watching a movie?
What? Why are you making that face? Miss Worcester? Miss Worcester? Miss Worcester! Oh God! Oh God! Oh my God!
So good, son. What?
Come on,
Crazy Al.
let me see you bounce. Whoa, yeah, yeah.
Come on.
Crazy Al, baby.